Coming up, a new report shows Indiana lagging some key states when it comes to economic competitiveness. Indiana Chamber of Commerce President Kevin Brinegar explains what needs to happen for Indiana to keep moving forward as other states are not standing still.
There's no reason we could not at some point aspire to be the world's largest farm without owning a single acre of land.
The co-founder of Heloponics, GrowPod, joins us to explain how the Purdue plant science startup is seeing growing interest during the COVID-19 pandemic. Plus,
for only the fourth time ever, the Indiana State Fair is canceled. We take a look back at 168 years of an Indiana institution coming up.
Details on those stories and a lot more just ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. Well, the Indiana Chamber of Commerce has just released its Indiana Vision 2025, an analysis that is really taking an innovative approach to measuring the state's economic competitiveness. It reinforces previous findings that really shows deficits in education preparation, workforce development, could have wide-ranging ramifications for the state. With more now on how the Hoosier State ranks among key competitor states, pleased to welcome to the show, as always, Indiana Chamber of Commerce President Kevin Brinegar. And Kevin, welcome back to the show.
Hello, Gary. Good to visit with you.
Let's start right off. I think this report it's unique, and I think especially interesting because rather than looking at Indiana nationally or Indiana just to the Midwest, you picked out competitor states, Utah, North Carolina, and others, and really measured Indiana against those states.
Yes, indeed. We took a close look at those states that we thought were competitor states as well as our surrounding states and how we're doing on some of the key metrics that we produce in our Indiana Vision 2025 biennial report card.
As you look at that, there are some positives, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I was really struck by some of the challenges that this report shows Indiana faces, especially when it comes to educational attainment and talent.
Yeah, there's no question that we have made great progress in a number of areas. Our business climate ranks high among these states. We have a funded transportation infrastructure plan, and we have enhanced the percentage of Hoosiers who have a college degree or an industry-recognized credential by about 10%. And by my estimate, that's an additional 500,000 Hoosiers. But yet, we still rank 38th among the 50 states, and we trail nearly all of these 9 surrounding and competitor states. And that's cause for alarm and will point to some needed action in the 2021 session of the General Assembly and beyond.
Yeah, and as you look at that, you talk about trailing, in particular, states like Utah and Minnesota who have not been standing still, who've really been focused on this talent issue.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's a moving target, and it's challenging not only to make absolute progress, but it's particularly challenging to make relative progress compared to other states that are moving forward. That's why we need to keep our foot on the gas and enhance the skills of our students coming out of high school as well as those in the workforce in order to be able to compete in this globally competitive knowledge-based economy.
As you look at attractive business climate, I think it's interesting that you point out you feel as though the state's health, smoking rates, obesity, those issues that have plagued the state for a while, contributing in a negative way to that business attractiveness.
Yeah, it does. We have great business attractiveness in terms of tax and regulatory and other factors, but our health metrics are frankly quite poor. They're very costly to the business community. There's one estimate that smoking alone costs Indiana businesses $6.2 billion a year, and higher healthcare costs, lost productivity, absenteeism. That's a drag on profitability. That's $6.2 billion that doesn't go into training or wages or benefits. And we think that's tied to the educational attainment because people with college degrees and higher levels of education and training tend to live healthier lifestyles. And so a lot of these things are interconnected.
As you look at innovation, dynamic and creative culture, Indiana making some gains there and does pretty well. But when you look at the important categories like new entrepreneurs and share of employment at firms less than 5 years, Indiana just doesn't yet stack up there.
No, we're not creating new businesses as fast as other states are, and that's an area of emphasis. We've challenged our Economic Development Policy Committee and our internal tech policy committees to come up with some ideas and solutions that we can present to the General Assembly in the 2021 session.
Kevin, on a statewide basis, perhaps this is a call out to our viewers and friends in places like Fort Wayne and South Bend and Evansville, but you're looking at innovation and the great gains that have been made there, a lot of it in central Indiana, but there, according to the report, there needs to be more on a statewide basis.
Yes, the report card includes regional data as well through the 12 economic development regions. And you're right, in that innovation area, there is more activity and higher levels of achievement in central Indiana. But we're encouraged that across all 12 regions, there were 10 metrics, and all of the regions saw a positive improvement in their scores in over half, and some of them 8 out of the 10 metrics. Plus, we saw some in-migration, both statewide and in certain regions of the state, that we think is a real plus to Indiana as well.
Indiana Chamber's Vision 2025 report card, a lot of really interesting data in it. Kevin Brinegar, as always, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Gary. My pleasure.
All right. And remember, you can catch that report too at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Well, the state of Indiana is mourning the loss of a businesswoman, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, CHRISTEL DeHaan. More than 2 decades ago, the German immigrant founded Crystal House International, a nonprofit organization that has helped thousands of impoverished children all over the world. DeHaan co-founded timeshare company Resort Condominiums International with husband John in 1974. In 1996, she sold RCI, netting a reported $550 million, and then used much of her wealth to support Crystal House and other charitable endeavors. Crystal House says it now serves nearly 6,000 students and graduates throughout schools in India, Jamaica, Mexico, South Africa, and the U.S. CHRISTEL DeHaan was 77. Well, the pandemic has driven demand for healthier homegrown food, and that has caused a real boom in business for Purdue-affiliated startup Heloponics and its high-tech in-home greenhouse. That story when we come back. It's time now to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. Well, Heloponics, a Purdue University-affiliated startup, says it is sparking a food revolution with the GrowPod. It's an in-home greenhouse that is seeing increased demand during the COVID-19 pandemic. 2 Purdue Polytechnic graduates founded the company and say the dishwasher-sized device grows produce year-round, providing consumers with lettuce and other greens that are fresh and pesticide-free. Pleased to welcome back to the show co-founder and CEO Scott Massey with an update, a big update on sales and what's next for the startup. Scott, welcome back to the show. I know you're in your production area, essentially in Evansville, right?
That is correct. The former appliance capital of the world, and situated very comfortably in between all of the agriculture and appliance engineering expertise in this country.
Very good. Well, Scott, Heloponics and your idea here is growing literally. Fascinating story. Give folks who may not know just a thumbnail of the business model and what Heloponics is all about.
Yeah, it could be described at a high level as Cure Egg for food. What we do is provide the product. I've got a couple of them sitting behind me. These are the GrowPods. It is a smart, automated hydroponic appliance that lets you grow vegetables inside your home. And what we do in our business model is first provide a machine that enables you to grow, and then a recurring subscription of consumables that are placed inside of the machine. So very, very similar business model to Nespresso, but we're different because you don't have to know how to farm. We automate the entire process. You put the pod in, and you're pulling out a full head or serving of greens on a daily basis out of this device.
Wow, it's amazing. And the produce that you can grow is growing, literally. You can grow a lot of different things in there, right?
Yeah, so we can do a whole number of polyculture assortments of leafy green vegetables, culinary herbs, and we're actually one of the first companies in the market in the under-the-counter space to actually do fruiting varieties. So here you can see some jalapeno peppers coming in very well. Cherry tomatoes also do well inside of the system, and that's an area that we're putting a considerable amount of focus in.
Wow.
To expand these varieties.
Yeah, a lot of interesting developments, Scott, including with the pandemic, with COVID-19, you have seen demand for your product really skyrocket.
Yeah, the pandemic's an incredibly unfortunate circumstance, but it originated out of concerns over food safety. And I think that's where it's going to end as well, as an adoption of decentralized farming production methods. Many countries are now putting huge initiatives to convert unused real estate into vertical farms. And frankly, we're getting more demands and inquiries than we even have the capacity to fulfill at this stage. This truly is the time where decentralized agriculture will flourish in the current market segments.
Well, and you've got some news you're going to break for us here on the show as well. You've just been informed you've been accepted into the world's premier accelerators. Tell us about that and what that means for the company.
Yeah, we're going to Switzerland. Mass Challenge is a very well-known accelerator that has a chapter in Lucerne, Switzerland. We're very fortunate and excited to be accepted into this program. Most of it is remote this year given the pandemic. We are planning some in-person segments, so later this year we'll be going to Switzerland, where we'll have an opportunity to be mentored and learn from some of the largest and most renowned food and agriculture companies in Europe. So wow. It's really exciting to branch out to these stakeholders and bring in who we hope to have partners in the business as we continue to scale. Yeah,
and very quickly, we only have about 30 seconds, but this is a quote-unquote an appliance. So you're looking, and appliance companies are looking at you for potential a partnership going forward, right?
Absolutely. There has been a lot of appliance companies in the industry that have debuted concepts in this space. The pandemic, I think, has altered the timelines for market infiltration for this product to have some real mass adoption. But the trend's there, and we're moving in this direction, and it's irreversible. People want better tasting food at home, fresh and pure.
All right. Scott Massey, the co-founder and CEO at Heloponics. Great innovation developed right here in Indiana, Purdue-affiliated startup. Congratulations, Scott. We'll be following the story in the coming weeks to be sure.
Thank you.
All right. Well, coming up next, the Indiana State Fair celebration, showcasing all things Indiana. It pumps millions of dollars into the state's economy. Not this year.
It's our biggest event of the year, and it's a lot of income lost. A lot of new customers. We're able to touch a lot of new customers that way.
No animals, no midway, no fair food. The pandemic has forced the State Fair to cancel for the first time since World War II. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has more on the economic impact. What's making news now around Indiana? And we begin with a staggering number. Mental health care costs around the country, some $12 billion a year. Moxie Girl is a Jeffersonville-based tech startup on a mission to change that by targeting some of the most vulnerable young girls. The company is using $20,000 in investment money from Elevate Ventures to develop the app it uses to provide mentoring and coaching to help improve emotional wellness and confidence in preteen and teenage girls. Moxie Girl co-founder Lydia Hinshaw is using a unique strategy to improve the platform. She's including at-risk girls in the development process.
We're actually co-creating the app now with teens. So we have an incredible teen advisory panel. They're really teaching us how to be more hip and more cool and, understand really how to build the tech in a way that speaks to them.
Says Moxie Girl is targeting pediatricians to give the app to their patients. She also says the company is planning to expand the program to teen boys. Meantime, in Clark County, IDX Corporation in Jeffersonville will soon be closing its doors. In a notice to the state,
the fair still is the state's largest observance of Indiana's rich agriculture history, one that adds up to a multi-million-dollar economic impact every year.
We continue to utilize this property in ways that expose people to the wonderful soul of our rural community, but also showcase other kinds of consumer shows. I mean, our economic impact is almost $200 million in direct impact to this area.
Vendors like Kelly Caldwell, who owns Simple Goodness Soap in Elwood, debuted her goat milk-based cleansing products at the State Fair under the Indiana Grown umbrella 2 years ago. And she says it's contributed to her company's success.
There's a lot of new people that we're able to touch coming through there that have never heard of our products. They bring a lot of people from Southern Indiana, so it gives us a wider range of meeting new customers.
While the fair was canceled, we'll be back bigger and better next year.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
Mary Rachel reports the fair will keep at least one tradition. It will still showcase Indiana 4-H by holding the traditional in-person livestock show with safety elements put into place. Well, coming up next, the $17 billion business of Father's Day and how you can keep your gift dollars in Indiana.
Yeah, I'd love to leave people with the idea that it's never been just about the clothing. It's about the experience too.
James Dance store for men in Irvington, just one way to celebrate Dad this year. Yelp's Brittany Smith with 5 other Hoosier Father's Day gift ideas in this month's Trendiana Report. Stay with us. But whether it's a hike in Tricky Run State Park, a shopping spree at James Dant in Irvington, or a Hoosier-style picnic with fried chicken from St. Leon Tavern in West Harrison, plenty of options to celebrate Dad this Father's Day and keep your money right here in Indiana. Yelp Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith joins us now in this month's Trendiana segment with more on the top 5 gift ideas for fathers and all budgets. And Brittany, welcome as always.
Thanks so much for having me, Gary.
Americans spend some $17 billion on Dad on Father's Day weekend nationally. You've got some great examples of spending that money right here in Indiana. And first of all, kind of a cool thing, and that's hiking at Turkey Run State Park in the western part of the state.
Yeah, we recently pulled the data by state to look for the best hike in each state based on reviews, and Turkey Run by far was the leading one for Indiana. People love that they've got the suspension bridge there, all of the ladders. It's friendly for all ages and levels, and actually now they've got the cabins and the hotel open back up, so you could even make a night of it and stay there on site at the state park.
And actually, I got married there, Brittany, 39 years ago. And do you know the name of the old high school, Turkey Run High School, which doesn't exist anymore? The Gobblers. Just wanted to, I just wanted to give you that bit of trivia. Okay. Moving on, coffee. Everyone loves coffee, and you've got Circadian Coffee, a really unique coffee that you can buy right here in Indiana.
Yeah, with so many people working from home right now, a lot of people are making coffee more than they ever have before. And Circadian Coffee is a great example of one of our newer roasters in the state. You can have it shipped right to Dad's doorstep, make it simple. They even have a cold brew option, some espresso. So depending on what his taste preference is, they've got something for everyone there.
All right, I always learn something from you too, Brittany. Indiana-style fried chicken. I didn't actually know there was actually an Indiana style of fried chicken, but there is, and it's a certain area of the state.
Yeah, southeastern Indiana. This is something new I even learned recently, and you'll catch some Hoosiers who have heard of it, others who have not. But the New York Times and Food and Wine magazine have both featured it in the last year. So down in southeastern Indiana, it's a very simple pan-fried recipe, and you find it at places like WAGNER'S Village Inn in Oldenburg. Another spot that you can find it is St. Leon Tavern in West Harrison. So you can get a carry-out picnic there. It's served family style, and it's a very simple recipe that you can also make at home and use like Tyner Pond Farms chicken. Right. So whether you order it from them or make it at home, you can try Indiana style fried chicken. Very
cool. Putting that on my list to visit. That looks pretty neat. You can also pick up some fashion, make sure Dad's in style at places like James Dant here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, located in Irvington. They've been around for more than 6 years, always bringing in the latest fashion trends to Indiana. They've got key rings there that are really popular option for Father's Day that are made by a business called Craig Hill out of New York. They've even got a new shoe brand from Slovakia. A few spots in the country you can find it. It's called Novesta. They even have stylish face masks for dad. So it's a really fun spot that no matter what kind of fashion dad has, they've got something for him there.
All right. We began with being healthy at Turkey Run. We end with being healthy on the Cardinal Greenway near Richmond in the eastern part of Indiana.
Yeah, this is a really budget-friendly and healthy option. This greenway is actually the longest rail trail in Indiana, 62 miles long, going through 5 different counties. And it's also recently being connected to the downtown historic Depot District in Richmond. So you can hop off the trail as they're finishing that up and go to ULLERY'S homemade ice cream or one of the other great spots right there in the historic Depot District.
Brittany, as always, great information, great gift ideas for dad from all over, unique ideas from all over the state of Indiana. Thanks for joining us as always, Brittany. Stay safe and we'll see you soon.
Same to you and happy Father's Day, Gary.
Oh, thank you. Well, coming up, the new reality of going back to the office, having your temperature taken by a thermal scanner, or having your hand or face scanned through touch-free cameras and palm readers. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has the story. Well, some Indiana companies begin to reopen. Employers are looking for ways to verify employees aren't showing symptoms of COVID-19 as they return to the workplace. A small security company in Indianapolis is partnering with Hoosier businesses to test the new health security systems to screen workers when they clock in. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie.
Thank you, Gary. Hoosier Security likens the current environment to the gold rush for security companies. Demand is high as employers clamor for ways to screen their employees' health before they return to work each day. But in the wake of COVID-19, Hoosier Security President Armando Perez says the market is saturated with equipment that may not deliver on its promises, such as spotting an employee with a fever. He joins me now to tell us how his company is testing security health technology to find which systems are most effective. Armando, thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So give us first a quick introduction to Hoosier Security. It specializes in electronic security systems. You describe your company as an integrator, not a manufacturer. Can you explain that?
Correct. So we're a regional security integrator. What that means is we take electronic devices and we provide a higher level of security and we make systems work together. So instead of where we might install a camera system, we install a camera system and access control system, make them work together to make the business run more smoothly.
And a couple names you work with, Around Town Bosma Enterprises and Andretti Autosport. So now health security systems are getting a ton of attention in your industry. You're testing 2 new technologies that are on the market. Let's start with the first one. It's an access control system. It can take a person's temperature. Tell us a little bit about this.
So yeah, at the beginning of when COVID really started to impact businesses, the security industry responded by starting to promote a lot of different thermal solutions to use cameras to take temperatures. And we immediately noticed a problem with how they were doing it, in that equipment is not designed for that use case. It's designed to find hotspots in electronics, and it's very different than taking someone's temperature accurately. And we found that there was all kinds of concerns with HIPAA and the NDAA, and even the FDA got involved. So we decided to start looking for solutions that would actually work. And what we found was a lot of marketing out there. So we invested in the research for about a dozen different solutions, and we came to 2. One of those is, like you said, the access control system, which looks similar to a tablet. It gets mounted on the wall, and it does a combination of 2 different types of temperature reading. But it's also very important to note that a lot of this stuff is advertised as fever detecting, and that is not what it's doing. So most of the problems we have with the industry is that they're promoting this hardware, these solutions, as medical devices, when really all they are is enhanced screening. They're really smart. We use AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to detect if somebody's wearing a mask, if somebody has a has a temperature that is a surface temperature that's higher than a certain level. But all of those things, it's important to note that we're not detecting the presence of an illness, and we're not detecting a fever because we're looking at the temperature of the human being in comparison to their surroundings, not their core temperature.
We're seeing video from Mavericks Event Center, which is one company that has signed on to test the system. You also have a large healthcare client that has signed on. You touched on this a little bit, but talk about this emerging area right now of health security. You've described it to me as it's kind of like the gold rush, but you're really kind of wanting to push back against that. Tell us a little bit about your perspective on that.
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of industries have a tendency to jump into new things without fully vetting them. We are uncomfortable putting our name behind anything that hasn't been tested and used in the field. So what we did was we launched a beta program after narrowing it down from about a dozen to 2 different solutions. We launched a beta program. We reached out to partners and companies within the Midwest, generally speaking, and had them agree to help us test this. And in exchange, they would give us information for a case study. So what the rest of the industry is doing is going out and pushing this hardware as a solution, because there's this sort of knee-jerk reaction in industry and business to, we have this problem, we have these restrictions, let's just throw money at it. And in my opinion, it's counterproductive.
And a second technology, this thermal camera scanner system, you said it's not getting quite as much traction. Explain that one to us quickly.
So one of our drawbacks is that we're too honest with our clients. If we have doubts about something, we'll let them know. And with the thermal imaging, the thermographic temperature detection, we've had a lot of trouble really getting behind it. And it is a thermal camera that's, again, designed to detect the presence of a human being, for example, and it sees in heat, not in light. It uses that along with artificial intelligence, machine learning, to detect the temperature of the human being that's crossing, coming towards the camera or across the camera or anything like that. And then we can use facial recognition to alert HR, alert their supervisor, alert whoever's responsible for that. But the farther and farther we dig into that technology, the more problems we find with it. So it sometimes gets difficult to sell a solution when you don't 100% believe in it, right? So that's where this beta program has been really eye-opening, because we see a lot of companies buying that equipment at full retail, and we just know for a fact that it's not going to work as intended.
All right, Armando. Well, it sounds like you're going to be busy. You've got your work cut out for you. Thanks for being on the show today and telling us about these 2 technologies.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thanks very much. Well, some encouraging news this week. The Indiana Manufacturers Association is conducting periodic surveys to better understand how COVID-19 is affecting all areas of Indiana's largest economic sector, manufacturing. Survey results indicate that about half of all manufacturers are optimistic about the long-term health of their business. The IMA says the first survey, which was conducted in May, focused on the impact of the pandemic to finances, supply chains, and customers, and found that 85% of manufacturers continued working throughout the quarantine period because of their essential status. Additionally, the IMA says only about 5% of the survey respondents indicated significant supply chain disruptions due to the coronavirus outbreak. Well, it's back to the business of basketball for the Indiana Pacers as they prepare to return to the court after sitting on the sidelines for months now. What does the abbreviated season look like, and what will be the economic toll? We'll take a look next inside Indiana Sports. Well, when the pandemic arrived in the U.S., the first major professional sports league to shut down was the NBA. And now it appears it will be among the first to come back. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. Indeed, the NBA serves as the catalyst for the cessation of sports in America in March, but now it looks to get things moving again with a tentative agreement to have training camps, conclude a regular season, and launch the playoffs at the Disney World Sports Complex in Orlando. Of course, that would include the Indiana Pacers, and here to talk about the resumption of play as well as the Pacers' chances is Indy Star Pacers beat writer Jay Michael. And Jay, welcome to the program. Good to see your face again. And certainly it's been a long time coming, but it looks like we might have some basketball again at the professional level.
Yeah, we're going to have basketball again. And, you know, the weird thing for me is I find myself having to go back and revisit exactly what the team, especially when it comes to the Pacers, but what some of these teams were by the time we had that work stoppage, because it's been so long, I kind of forget, you know, over the course of a season of 82 games, you know, the ebb and flow of a team changes, the rotations, the way they're playing, some of the wrinkles they throw in to help improve their chances, like the Pacers made. They made some significant improvements. But I have to go back and refresh my memory because it's so long ago. It's almost having to, I feel like I'm going back into training camp again. It just feels like October all over again for me.
What do you, and what's your assessment, again, eight regular season games tacked on, and then that will, you know, determine the final playoff positioning. What do you think about this concept that the Board of Governors and the NBA have come up with?
I mean, it's kind of odd. I mean, I guess maybe it's the best thing that they can do under the circumstances, because you need some games for some of these guys to kind of get game shape back, to get back in rhythm playing with each other. So I expected to see that all along. It was just a matter of how many games. Of course, financially, so the league doesn't have to give back money. You want to get to that 70 game, that magic number, so they don't have to pay back money to the network. So that was important for them. So I think that's partly a business decision as well. But I was glad that they kept it in conference rather than going seeding 1 through 16, because that was something that was floated earlier. If they had gone to a 1 to 16 seed, the Pacers were looking at somewhere being around 11th, maybe even 12th, and they would have had a much tougher opponent in the first round, and I think that kind of changes things. So to keep the integrity of the playoff process, I thought they needed to stick with Eastern and Western conferences, and I think that was, for me, the most important part of all of this.
I think the Pacers can finish maybe as high as third. Probably unlikely. Certainly they are in the playoffs. And they were playing well when everything shut down, starting, you know, Victor Oladipo was back and they were starting to get their groove again. What do you think about the Pacers' chances when this resumes?
Well, since they've gone to they're going to stick with the conferences. Right now they're currently in the 5th spot. They would be in a matchup with the Miami Heat. And even though they've lost twice to the Heat during the regular season, I feel like the Pacers, at least at the time of the stoppage, were on an upward trajectory, whereas Miami seemed to be coming down from how they started the season. Miami was really good starting the season, was as high as number 2 in the East. And you start to see Miami people kind of figuring out how to go against a team that's so zone defense heavy. And you see the Pacers making a lot of adjustments, X's and O's wise. You know, they're doing different schemes on the pick and roll in terms of defending it. They've gotten away from certain concepts. They're using 3-2 zone themselves, and it's kind of catching teams by surprise. So I think throwing in all of these wrinkles, something that we hadn't seen Coach Nate McMillan do before, was catching some teams by surprise. And then you see Miles Turner, who had kind of been out of sync, at least on the offensive end. His level of play offensively is starting to match Domantas Sabonis' level of play. And then you have Oladipo. He had a season high 27 points in that final game against Boston before the stoppage. You see him getting back, and now you have Malcolm Brogdon back.
And it will certainly be great to have Malcolm Brogdon back on the roster. So, Jay Michael, thank you so much for joining us on the program today, and we look forward to soon reading your reports on the NBA and the Pacers in the Indy Star. Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thanks. Look forward to seeing the Pacers back on the court, to be sure. Well, professional golf is returning to Southwest Indiana, and the plan is to have fans there to watch it. The 2020 KORN Ferry Tour Championship will take place August 24th to the 30th at Victoria National Golf Club in Newburgh. Marks the 9th year of the feeder tour. The Professional Golf Association will make a stop in Indiana's Great Southwest. Tournament organizers business. The plan is to welcome fans to the course, and that means some logistical hurdles.
We have to consider the safety of our spectators, the safety of the players and our staff. with every decision that we make, from player dining to how will our spectators arrive at the course, and then what do our hospitality suites look like, enclosed, open air, what creates a level of safety for our spectators and the players that we feel comfortable with.
It is estimated the tournament has about a $12 million economic impact on the Evansville region, not to mention visibility in more than 190 countries on the Gulf Channel. There's also local charitable impact.
The charitable impact, over the last 9 years, has been just over $1.7 million to local charitable organizations. Over 100 of those entities have received monies. This last year, was about $180,000 that went to local charities. So all net proceeds are earmarked for local charitable organizations.
And this year's tournament proceeds will benefit early childhood development in Southwest Indiana. Coming up next, an Indiana hidden gem in higher education can be found just outside of Terre Haute in Vigo County. St. Mary of the Woods College says it's on a roll. Near record enrollment, a fast-growing nursing program, and flat tuition. All of it adding up to some big things ahead, says President Dottie King, and she'll join me next. Plus, still ahead. Peddling socks out of his dorm room, now selling beanies and scarves. Now Taylor University grad Keaton Hendricks is jumping into the t-shirt business. We'll explain what that has to do with Panda's love for bamboo when we come back. Well, for the past 5 years, St. Mary of the Woods College near Terre Haute says it has seen continued growth in enrollment. In fact, the school could break an all-time record this coming academic year. St. Mary of the Woods says a new nursing program, the state's only equine program as well, and holding tuition steady since 2018 are a few of the dynamics factoring in to that enrollment success. And pleased to be joined on the show this week by St. Mary of the Woods College President Dottie King for more. And Dottie, as always, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Higher education always has been certainly a very competitive business, I think even more so now. I mentioned those numbers, those increasing enrollment numbers, inching up close to 500 on-campus students. What is really driving that? I mentioned the programs. Nursing has been one of the programs I know you've really kind of been hanging your hat on.
That's right. Nursing was great for us, and out of it now, it provided a foundation for us to add other things. So we're looking at exercise science this fall, kinesiology, and some programs that come allied health out of that. So that's definitely one of the factors.
St. Mary of the Woods has been there established in 1840 by the Sisters of Providence. But a few years back, you made a big move in going co-educational to allowing men in peace been for the school.
You know, it really couldn't have gone better for us. We didn't make any large goals about men. We would just welcome them. And we thought what we did was very good. And we just welcomed them in, and they've come, and along with them, a lot more women.
And there's also physical change taking place on the campus there. I know next week St. Mary of the Woods will hold a big groundbreaking ceremony. Talk about the new addition to campus and what that means.
Well, with that growing enrollment comes a growing need to house more students. And the most recent residence hall opening was in 1924 up until now. And we are outgrowing that residence hall, and so we will be breaking ground on a new residence hall, which will include a dining hall.
Yeah, I want to mention a couple of things. We saw some horses, video of horses a moment ago, but you have a unique program, an equine program there, one of the unique offerings that St. Mary of the Woods offers. Talk about that program and what it means to the school.
Well, we have an equestrian program. We have about 50 horses on campus at any given time, and 3 academic majors connected with them, and 2 competitive teams. And so it is unique. There are some other teams in the state, but we're the only school with a baccalaureate program in equine studies.
I should also mention your online component is a piece of your growth that you like to talk about. And this goes back a long time, a lot of history and heritage, back when it was distance learning, even really before the internet happened. Taught the distance learning piece at the college and why it's so important there.
Well, we started in 1974, and Jean Nerley was president, and she recognized there was a need in the world for, at that time, women who had either not gone to college or had stopped out because they got married and had families, and a need for them, and they couldn't come in a traditional way. So she was very pioneering, and we developed the second program in the country to allow students to attend college at a distance. And of course, it's evolved into a fully online program now, and that really helped us in recent times.
St. Mary of the Woods College near Terre Haute in growth mode, looking to perhaps have record enrollment this coming academic year. And in the week ahead, a big groundbreaking on campus as well. Dottie King is the president of the university, of the college. Dottie, thanks for joining us as always, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Well, when Keaton Hendricks started selling socks out of his Taylor University dorm room, probably never envisioned where his business would evolve. Just 4 years later, Sky Outfitters has gone from selling only socks to beanies, scarves, and now bamboo t-shirts. The company is built on a buy one, give one model. Every item sold is matched with a donation to a homeless shelter across the country. Keaton joins us now to talk more about his newest product moves. And Keaton, welcome back to the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. You were on the show about a year ago talking about what was Sky Footwear, but now you've rebranded to Sky Outfitters. First of all, give us the business model that you really created in your dorm room at Taylor University a few years back.
Yeah, so our business model is simple. For each item that we sell, we donate that same item to a different homeless shelter each month. So each month we partner with a different shelter all across the United States.
And this really started, again, exclusively with socks, right? How did that go in the early days?
Yeah, we started with socks, and we fit as many socks as what we could into our little dorm room, and that was our humble beginning about 4 years ago.
You've expanded, I mentioned beanies and other items. The most recent item, the newest edition, I think I have this right, bamboo t-shirts?
That's correct. Yeah, so we are on a mission to expand into these different items that homeless shelters are in need of. And once we hear the need, we try to see if it's a fit with what we're doing and with the customers to see if we can fulfill that need for our shelter of the month. So we were excited to launch t-shirts this summer.
Now, I see a panda chasing that guy in the t-shirt there. That's the bamboo connection, right? Is there any truth to the rumor that you are the panda?
That might be true. You know, running a small business, you know, you got to do a lot of different things. So I'm going to add that to my resume one day.
That's
Thanks
great.
for bringing that up.
That's outstanding. Keaton, talk about the impact, though, because there's the business piece and there's the nonprofit piece, the impact you're making in shelters. I know last year, I think you connected with Wheeler Mission here in Indianapolis, kind of a coming home, if you will. But talk about the impact that you feel the company is making at shelters, not only in Indiana, but around the country.
Yeah, so that impact, that's the reason we do what we do. Because when we're able to go into a shelter and partner with them and meet their immediate needs that they have to love and support those that come into their place, we love that. We love to give them a tool that they can use to express love and build relationships.
Yeah, I know you've touched, I guess, 38 to 40 plus shelters around the country. As you went to scale up this business, what are some of the challenges? Funding, I'm sure, is in there, but what are some of the challenges when you look at scaling up your operation?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different areas that we can go and how we want to scale. But what it comes down to for us is focus, because we can get spread too thin pretty quickly. But focus in on which area that we want to grow and hoping that it gives us a return is something that's challenging, as well as a lot of challenges with running a small business, especially these days.
Yeah, I know you're coming to us today from your operation, which is on the near south side of Indianapolis, right?
Yes. Yep.
Very good. What's next as we wrap up, Keaton? What's next for Sky Outfitters?
Yeah, so we're going to continue to expand into items that homeless shelters request. So as we continue to hear them, it is our job to develop products that customers love and that customers want to buy, because that, at the end of the day, is how we end up donating items to these shelters that we partner with.
All right. Keaton Hendricks is the founder at Sky Outfitters. Great success story, really neat business model. Keaton, thanks for joining us and good luck going forward.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, also making headlines this week, Indiana's second largest brewery is partnering with KOKOMO. We opened Tin-Man KOKOMO as a Sun King tap room and brewery. That happens in July. Owner Amanda Luton will continue to manage overall business operations, but Sun King will take a minority ownership and oversee the on-site brewing program and recipe development. Sun King says it will also be supporting operational, marketing, and logistical needs. The brewery says the downtown KOKOMO location will be family and dog-friendly. Sun King established its flagship brewery in downtown Indianapolis in 2009 and has since expanded to Fishers, Carmel, and Broad Ripple. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Well, Visit Indiana has released its next hashtag the 20 in 20 list. It's revealing the state's top 20 outdoor adventures. The organization's list showcases Hoosier spots, including Turkey Run State Park in Marshall, Indiana Dunes in Porter, and Brown County State Park. Visit Indiana launched its 20 in 20 initiative earlier this year, and you can view all of the 20 in 20 lists by going to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Well, ready to test your luck? The Speedway Chamber of Commerce has created a lottery program to support local businesses. With the Indy 500 pushed to August and no fans at the Brickyard 400 in July, businesses at Speedway are dealing with a big economic hit. Tickets for the lottery can be purchased for $10 each. 8 winners will be selected to receive $400 in gift cards from participating businesses. Proceeds from the lottery will benefit those businesses and the Chamber's initiatives to assist companies. Tickets may be purchased in person at McGilvery's Pub and Eatery, B. Aaron Designs, and Three Sisters and a Trunk, or online. Well, coming up next week, Indiana Secretary of Commerce Jim Schellinger. He will talk about plans to reopen Indiana and get the Hoosier State back on track by July 4. Plus, Ivy Tech President Sue Ann Ellspermann is looking at the free classes. And Sue Ellspermann is looking at free classes and training being offered for more than 10,000 Hoosiers impacted by COVID-19. Those stories and a lot more, all coming up next week. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.